There's something about this person you were never meant to find out. Not because anyone was protecting you from it, but because they have spent their entire adult life making sure nobody ever sees it. It's the thing underneath the silence. It's the real reason for every confusing thing they've ever done. And it's coming out. Right now, in this window, the covers are being pulled off something they've kept hidden since long before you existed in their life. And once you see it, you will never be able to look at this whole connection the same way again. I'll be honest with you, this is a heavier reading than I usually bring. I sat with it a long time before deciding to record it. So let me tell you why, and let me tell you about a woman I used to work with named June. June was, on the surface, the most together person in the building. Immaculate, cheerful, always fine, always fine, always fine. And she and I were friendly for about 2 years, genuinely friendly. We'd get lunch, and I would have told you I knew her. And then, one afternoon, completely by accident, I found out something about June's life that reframed every single interaction I'd ever had with her. I'm not going to share her business, but I'll tell you the feeling. It was like someone handed me a decoder ring for a language I'd been hearing for 2 years and mistaking for nonsense. Every strange thing she'd ever said, every time she'd canceled, every flinch I'd noticed and dismissed. It all snapped into focus at once, and I had to go sit in my car. And the thing I remember most clearly is that my first reaction wasn't anger, and it wasn't even pity. It was vertigo. Because I realized I had been in a relationship with a version of June that she had constructed. And the real June had been standing behind it the entire time, and I'd never once suspected. Not because I was stupid, because she was extremely good at it. She'd had a lifetime of practice. Hey loves, it's Elena. Welcome to Elena Tarot. And today, the cards are handing you a decoder ring. There's an alarming truth about this masculine that has been running underneath everything, every silence, every retreat, every confusing signal, and it is being exposed right now, in this window. I'm going to walk you through exactly what it is, why it's coming out now, and what it means for you. Take a breath. Let me shuffle. The version of him you were shown first card, and it establishes the whole problem. The card is the Magician. Reversed, upright. The Magician is a person who takes what's inside them and makes it real in the world. Genuine power, genuine manifestation. What you see is what is. But reversed, the Magician is something else entirely. He's an illusionist. Reversed, this card is the card of a constructed presentation. Manipulation, sometimes but more often, and more sadly. It's the card of a person performing a self they've built rather than living the self they are. And that's what you've been in contact with. Not the man. The construction. Now I want to be careful here, because there's a cheap version of this reading where I tell you he's a con artist who was playing you for sport, and I don't think that's what's happening. And I won't sell it to you. The reverse Magician here feels less like a predator and more like a front, a stage set. A very convincing fade he's been maintaining for so long that he may not even experience it as lying, it's just how he appears. The way June was always fine, 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 the alarming part isn't that he built the front, it's how completely it worked, and how long you've been talking to it. Here's the practical picture, and it's the thing that makes this so disorienting. Think about the difference between a lie and a persona. A lie is a discrete thing you can catch a false statement, a story that doesn't add up. But a persona has no seams. It's not a false statement, it's a false frame, and everything true he ever told you was told from inside the frame. That's why you never caught it. There was nothing to catch. He wasn't feeding you lies you could disprove. He was showing you a whole coherent man who simply wasn't the one underneath. And you can't catch someone in a persona the way you catch them in a lie. You can only, one day, find out. Comment the front if you've always had a faint sense that you were talking to a version of this person, polished, consistent, and somehow never quite reachable. Because your instincts were right, and we're about to find out what's behind it. And I want to add something about the reverse Magician that I think will spare you a lot of unnecessary self-blame. Because I know where your mind is going. You're already asking yourself, how did I not see it? So let me answer that directly. You didn't see it because it was engineered not to be seen by someone who has been engineering it since long before you met him. This wasn't an amateur operation. A reversed magician who's been running a front for years isn't leaving clues around for you to miss. He's built a presentation that's internally consistent, emotionally convincing, and specifically designed to survive exactly the kind of scrutiny a caring person applies. You were not careless. You were up against a professional. There's a reason the best cons in the world work on smart people. Intelligence doesn't protect you from a good frame, because your intelligence operates inside the frame you've been given. You reasoned brilliantly about the wrong picture. That's not a failure of your mind. That's what happens when someone hands you the wrong map and you navigate it perfectly. Next card. What the front was hiding, okay? Second card. And this is the alarming truth itself, the thing under the stage set. The card is the Eight of Cups. Reversed, upright. The Eight of Cups is someone walking away from a life to go find something more meaningful, a brave departure, a quest. But reversed, that departure never happens. Reversed, the Eight of Cups is a person who should have left something long ago and didn't. Who stayed. Who is still standing in a situation they outgrew or that's hurting them, unable to make the walk. And here's the alarming truth. He is stuck inside something he has never told you about, and he can't get out of it. I want to be precise about what I'm seeing, because stuck is doing a lot of work here. This is not he's a little busy. This is a person whose life has a shape he has never disclosed to you, an entanglement, an obligation, a situation, a circumstance he is embedded in and has not been able to leave. It might be a relationship or a living situation he never fully explained. It might be a family enmeshment, a financial trap, a dependency, a commitment, a debt of some kind, literal or emotional. The reversed Eight of Cups doesn't tell me the label. It tells me the shape. A door he's been standing in front of for a very long time, unable to walk through, and never once mentioned to you that the door was even there. And that's the alarming part. Not the situation itself, plenty of people are stuck in things. The alarming part is that the entire time you were relating to him, there was a whole load-bearing structure in his life that you couldn't see. And every confusing thing he ever did was determined by it. His hot and cold, his disappearances, his inability to move forward with you, his silence. You've been reading all of that as a message about you, about whether he wanted you, chose you, felt enough for you. It was never about you. It was about the room he's been trapped in the whole time, that you didn't know existed. Here's the practical version, and it's what makes this so painful in retrospect. Have you ever been furious at someone for being late, building a whole story about their disrespect, and then found out they'd been dealing with something enormous that they hadn't told you about? And in a second, your anger collapses into something much more complicated, a mix of relief and grief and a weird disorientation. Because you realize you've been having an argument with a phantom. That's what this exposure does. Every grievance you've been nursing gets recontextualized at once. You weren't wrong to be hurt. You were just hurt by the wrong reason. And there's a specific cruelty to the reversed Eight of Cups that I want to name, because it's the thing that's been quietly destroying you and you probably haven't identified it. When someone is stuck in a hidden structure, the connection with you cannot progress, and yet nothing visible is stopping it. So from your side, it looks like a connection that's good, that has real feeling in it, that keeps almost becoming something and never does. And in the absence of a visible obstacle, you do the only thing a reasonable person can do. You assume the obstacle is you. You start optimizing. You try being more available, then less available. You try being lighter, then deeper, then patient, then direct. You run experiment after experiment on yourself, trying to find the variable that unlocks it. And none of them work, because you were never the variable. The obstacle was a wall in a room you'd never been shown, and no amount of adjusting yourself was ever going to move it. That's the specific cruelty. Not that he was stuck. That his hiddenness made you spend months or years auditioning for a part that had already been cast by circumstances you weren't allowed to know about. Next card. Why he never told you okay? Third card. And this explains the concealment why he hid the whole structure from you. The card is the Four of Cups. The Four of Cups is a person sitting with their arms folded, gazing off, refusing a cup being offered to them. It's the card of emotional shutdown, of apathy, of not being able to receive what's right there. And it's showing up as the reason for the concealment tells me something specific and honestly quite sad. He didn't tell you because he had stopped believing anything could change. This isn't a man who hid the truth from you to trick you. This is a man in a Four of Cups state of resignation, someone so deep in his stuck situation for so long that he genuinely no longer believes there's a way out, and therefore sees no point in telling anyone. Because think about what telling you would mean. It would mean opening the topic, which means facing it, which means confronting the fact that he's not doing anything about it. Silence let him keep the two worlds separate. He could come to you and, for a moment, be the magician front version of himself, the free man, the unencumbered one, and then go back to the room. Telling you would have collapsed the two worlds into one, and he could not bear it. And I want to name the specific alarming thing about the Four of Cups here, because it matters for your decision making later. Resignation is not the same as circumstance. A man who is trapped and fighting is a different creature from a man who is trapped and has given up. The Four of Cups says he's the second kind, not currently fighting, not currently scheming his way out, sitting with folded arms in a life he doesn't like, refusing the offered cup. That's the truth, and it's alarming precisely because circumstances change, but resignation is sticky. Here's the practical picture. Think about someone you know who's been complaining about the same job for 8 years and has never once applied for another. Or someone in a relationship they describe as dead who has made 0 moves. At some point, you stop believing that the problem is their circumstances, right? At some point, you realize the problem is that they've made peace with it, and that peace is now the actual obstacle. It's not that they can't leave, it's that some part of them has decided not to, and dressed it up as can't. That's the Four of Cups. And that's what's underneath his silence toward you. Comment folded arms if this lands, if you've sensed that this person's problem was never really their situation, it was their surrender to it. And I want to make one more distinction here, because it's the difference between hope and delusion, and you deserve to know which one you're holding. There are 2 kinds of stuck. The first kind is situationally stuck, a person genuinely pinned by circumstances, who is actively working the problem, who has a plan even if it's slow, who talks about the door because they intend to walk through it. That person's stuckness has a direction. The second kind is psychologically stuck, a person who has stopped working the problem entirely, who has folded the situation into their identity, who no longer experiences the door as a door because they've long since started calling it a wall. That person's stuckness has no direction. It just is. The Four of Cups says he is the second kind. And I need you to sit with what that actually means for the future you might have been imagining. Because if he were situationally stuck, then waiting would be reasonable, there'd be a process in motion, and your patience would be patience for something. But you cannot wait out resignation. Resignation isn't a phase, it's a settling. And it doesn't have a natural end date that your waiting is bringing closer. Every day you wait for a psychologically stuck person to spontaneously become an actively fighting person is a day spent betting on an event that has no evidence behind it. That's the alarming truth inside the alarming truth. It's not that he's trapped, it's that he's settled. And settled people mostly stay. Next card. What this truth explains, okay. Fourth card. And this is where the decoder ring kicks in. Because now that you know the structure, everything that confused you starts to make sense. The card is the Seven of Swords. The Seven of Swords is the card of someone sneaking away with an armful of swords, looking back over their shoulder. It's the card of concealment, of half-truths, of taking what you can and slipping out. and it's showing up here as the thing the truth explains, tells me that this hidden structure is the answer to every strange, evasive, sideways thing this man has ever done with you. Here's what the Seven of Swords is explaining. All those things you couldn't square. The way he'd be intensely present and then vanish. The way certain topics were quietly off limits and you never quite knew why. The way he was vague about his time, his plans, his life. The way there were whole regions of him you were never allowed into. The way things could never quite progress no matter how good they were. Every single one of those is a symptom of the structure of a man living a compartmentalized life. Coming to you from one compartment and returning to another, keeping the walls up between them. And I want to say something honest here, because this reading has to be fair to you. The Seven of Swords is a card about deception, and even a sympathetic reading of him doesn't erase that. Whatever his reasons, whatever his sadness, whatever the trap he's in, the fact remains that you were relating to him without the information you needed to make real choices about your own life. That's what the Seven of Swords is. It's not neutral. It's not a victimless card. He kept the swords, and you got the fog. And I'd be doing you a disservice if I dressed that up as merely tragic, when it was also, functionally, a withholding that cost you time and clarity you can't get back. Here's the practical version, and it's an important distinction. There's a difference between privacy and concealment. Privacy is there are parts of my life I'm not ready to share, yet it's an honest boundary, and everyone's entitled to it. Concealment is letting someone build a picture of you that you know is wrong and doing nothing to correct it. You can be private about your struggles, but if your struggles are the actual reason a person can't have a real relationship with you, and you let them believe the problem is chemistry or timing or themselves, that's not privacy anymore. That's letting someone take the blame for something that was never theirs. And that's exactly what happened here. And here's the test I want to give you for that distinction, because it's clean and you can use it forever. The question isn't, did they tell me everything? Nobody owes anybody everything. The question is, did they withhold something that I needed in order to make an informed choice about my own life? That's the line. Your friend not telling you about their childhood is privacy. Your friend not telling you they're moving abroad in 3 months while you plan your year around them is concealment, because you needed that information to run your own life. Everyone's entitled to their private rooms. Nobody is entitled to let you make major decisions based on a floor plan they know is wrong. He didn't owe you every detail of his situation. He owed you enough of it that you could decide, with open eyes, whether you wanted to spend your time here. And he didn't give you that. Not because he's evil, but because giving it to you would have meant losing you. And he wanted to keep the compartment. That's the Seven of Swords, someone slipping away with the swords, looking back over their shoulder, taking what they can carry. Next card. How the truth is coming out okay. Fifth card. And this is the exposure, the specific mechanism by which this is surfacing. The card is the moon. The moon is the card of things half seen, of shapes in fog, of the truth being sensed before it's known. And it's showing up as the mechanism of the exposure tells me something very specific and, I think, very accurate about how this is landing for you. The truth isn't arriving as a bombshell. It's arriving as a slow surfacing. The moon doesn't hand you a document. The moon works by illumination, a slow, cold light that gradually makes the shapes in the fog resolve into things you can recognize. So the way this alarming truth is coming out for you is probably not a single dramatic revelation. It's an accumulation. A detail here, a thing someone mentions, a small inconsistency you finally can't unsee. A piece of information that clicks into a slot you didn't know was empty. And the moon's specialty is that awful, unmistakable feeling in your body before your mind has the evidence, the deep intuitive, knowing that something is off, that there's a shape out there in the fog. And I want you to trust that feeling, because the moon is telling you it's accurate. You've been sensing this. You've had the fog feeling about this connection for a long time, that nagging, can't name it sense that something didn't add up, that there was a room in the house you'd never been shown. You probably talked yourself out of it repeatedly. You probably called yourself paranoid or insecure. You weren't. Your intuition has been reading the shape in the fog correctly this entire time. And now the light is coming up enough that you're finally going to see what you've been feeling. Here's the practical picture. Think about how you almost always know a truth before you know it. You know the friendship is over before it ends. You know they're going to break up with you before they do. You know the job is going away before the meeting. That's the moon. The body reads the pattern long before the mind has permission to say it out loud. And then when the confirmation comes, the dominant feeling is rarely surprise. It's a horrible, quiet I knew. That's what's coming for you. Not a shock, a confirmation of something you've known in your gut for a long time and refused to look at directly. Comment, I already knew if you're feeling that right now. If this reading is confirming something your intuition has been screaming for months. Because it was right, and it's time to stop overriding it. And there's something specific about why now that I want to name. Because the moon is very particular about timing. The moon governs cycles. It doesn't reveal things on demand. It reveals them when the light reaches the right angle. So the reason this is surfacing now, rather than a year ago or a year from now, is that something in the arrangement has shifted enough to let the light in. And here's the interesting part. Very often, what shifts is you. The fog doesn't lift because he got sloppy. It lifts because you finally stopped filling the gaps for him. Think about what that means practically. For a long time, you were doing unpaid labor on his behalf, generating charitable explanations for every inconsistency, smoothing over every gap in his story, doing the interpretive work that kept his picture coherent. You were holding the fog in place, without meaning to, by being generous. And then at some point, maybe recently, maybe during this no contact, you got tired. You stopped supplying the benefit of the doubt. You stopped doing his explaining for him. And the second you stopped, the picture he'd built lost its support beams. Because you were the support beams. That's why it's surfacing now. Not because new evidence appeared. Because you finally stopped defending against the evidence that was always there. The moon isn't showing you anything new. It's showing you what you can see now that you've stopped looking away. Next card. What he's feeling as it surfaces okay. Sixth card. And let's look at him, what this exposure is doing on his side. The card is the Nine of Wands. The Nine of Wands is a figure standing bandaged and exhausted, gripping a staff, guarding a row of wands behind him. He's been through it. He's tired. And he is braced defensive, watchful, expecting the next blow. And it's showing up for him tells me that as this truth surfaces, he is not calm and he is not relieved. He is defensive. He's standing guard over his structure, exhausted, waiting to be attacked. And here's the important read. He's been guarding this for a very long time. The Nine of Wands isn't a fresh wound. It's the card of someone who's been holding the line so long that defensiveness has become their personality. So this man, as his hidden structure gets exposed, isn't going to greet it with an open-hearted confession. His whole nervous system is going to read the exposure as an attack. And he's going to do what he's always done. Guard, deflect, hunker down, protect the wands. Which means, practically, that you should prepare for how he behaves when this comes out, because it may not be pretty and it may not be what you deserve. He may minimize. He may get irritable. He may go completely silent, which, given the no contact, may be exactly what you're already experiencing. He may act like you're the problem for finding out. Not because he's a monster, but because a Nine of Wands has been defending this position for years and has no other move in his repertoire. He doesn't know how to be caught. He only knows how to defend. Here's the practical version, and it'll help you not take his reaction personally. Think about how a person who's been criticized their whole life will flinch defensively at even gentle feedback, how they'll hear, "Hey, can we talk about something?" and immediately go rigid, ready for war, before you've even said anything. Their defensiveness isn't about you. It's a callus formed over years of impact. Your man's Nine of Wands is that callus. And when the truth surfaces, you're going to be talking to the callus, not to him. So do not expect an honest, tender reckoning. Expect a bandaged man gripping a staff. And plan accordingly. And there's one more thing about the Nine of Wands I want you to understand, because it will keep you from a very specific and very painful mistake. Look at what he's guarding in that image, a row of wands standing behind him. He's not defending you. He's not defending the connection. He's defending the structure, the hidden thing, the arrangement, the compartmentalized life he's built. That's what's behind him. That's what the staff is for. And I need you to really absorb that, because there's a version of this where you think, if I approach him gently enough, if I'm understanding enough, if I show him I'm safe, he'll lower the staff and let me in. He won't. Not because you're not gentle enough, because the staff isn't up against you specifically. It's up against exposure itself. It's been up for years. It was up before you got there, and it'll be up after. A Nine of Wands doesn't lower his guard for the right person. He lowers it when he decides the war is over. And only he can make that call. So please don't take on the project of being gentle enough to earn your way past a defense that isn't about you. That project has no end, and the only thing it depletes is you. Comment it's not about Emmy if you needed that, if you've been trying to be soft enough, patient enough, safe enough to get past a wall that was never going to move for anyone. Next card. What this means you have to face okay. Seventh card. And this turns it toward you what this exposure actually requires of you. The card is Justice. Justice is the card of clear-eyed truth, of weighing things honestly, of consequences and fair accounting. It's the card of the moment where you stop feeling about a thing and start seeing it. And it's showing up here tells me the exposure is not just information, it's a reckoning that requires a decision from you. Here's what Justice is asking. Now that the truth is surfacing, now that you know there's a structure, that he's resigned inside it, that he concealed it, that his behavior toward you was symptom rather than message, you have to actually weigh it. And Justice is very specific about what goes on the scales. Not his intentions, not his pain, not how sad the whole thing is, though it is sad. Justice weighs facts and consequences. And the facts are, there is a situation he is in, he has not left it, he did not tell you about it, and your life has been shaped by a truth you were denied access to. And I want to say the hard part, because Justice would want me to. His reasons for hiding this can be entirely sympathetic, and it still doesn't change what it cost you. Both things are true. He may be genuinely trapped, genuinely sad, genuinely someone you'd feel for if you knew the whole story. And you have spent real months or years of your one life in a fog he could have lifted with a single honest conversation and chose not to. Justice doesn't let you collapse those into each other. It insists you hold both the compassion and the cost, and then decide with your eyes open. Here's the practical version, and it's the most useful thing in this reading. There's a trap that good-hearted people fall into constantly, and it goes like this. The moment you find out why someone hurt you, your empathy kicks in and you drop the accounting. You go, oh, they were struggling. And then you quietly file the whole thing under not their fault and take the loss yourself. And I'm asking you not to do that. Understanding why someone did something is not the same as deciding it was acceptable. You can fully understand a person's reasons and still say, and this doesn't work for me. Justice is the card that keeps those separate. Empathy explains. It doesn't excuse. And it definitely doesn't obligate you to keep standing in the fog now that you can see it's fog. Comment both things are true if you needed permission to feel for him and still refuse to accept it. Because you're allowed both, and Justice says so. And I want to give you the specific tool Justice uses, because it'll serve you in every hard decision you ever make. Justice doesn't ask, who's the villain? That's the wrong question, and it traps people for years. Because as soon as you decide he's not a villain, you feel like you've lost the right to leave. Justice asks a completely different question, and it's this. what is actually true, and what does that truth cost me to keep living inside of? Notice how that question doesn't require anyone to be bad. It just requires the facts to be counted honestly. He can be a good man in a bad situation, genuinely suffering, genuinely sorry, and the arrangement can still be costing you your one and only life. And both of those can be simultaneously fully true. Justice is the card that lets you say, "This isn't anyone's fault, and I'm still not doing it anymore." That sentence is available to you. Most people don't know it is. They think they need a villain to justify leaving, so they either manufacture one or they stay. You don't have to do either. You just have to weigh what's real and ask what it costs. That's the whole ritual. And your answer doesn't require his agreement, his apology, or his understanding to be valid. Let's pull our final card. Where this leaves you okay. Last card. After the front, the trap, the resignation, the concealment, the slow surfacing, his defensiveness, and the reckoning, where does this leave you? The card is the Eight of Wands. And I exhaled when I saw this. Because after all that heaviness, the Eight of Wands is motion. It's 8 wands flying clean through open air toward their target, nothing in the way. It's the card of things finally moving fast after a long, stuck stillness. And its landing here as your outcome is genuinely wonderful news. And here's why. You have been stuck. Not because of anything wrong with you, because you were standing in fog, trying to make decisions with missing information. And you can't move when you can't see. Every time you try to decide what to do about this connection, you hit the same wall. I don't understand what's happening, so I don't know what to do. That's what fog does. It doesn't just confuse you, it immobilizes you. And the Eight of Wands is what happens the second the fog lifts. Clarity is velocity. The moment you actually understand what you've been dealing with, all that stalled energy converts into motion. Decisions that were impossible for months become obvious in an afternoon. You stop deliberating and start moving. That's what's on the other side of this exposure for you, not more heartbreak, but speed. The exposure is the thing that finally lets you go. So here's where this leaves you. At the end of a long, foggy, stalled chapter and the very beginning of a fast one. Whatever you decide to do with what you now know, and I'm not going to tell you what that is, it's yours. You're going to be able to do it, which is more than you've been able to say for a long time. The alarming truth isn't your disaster, it's your release. It's the thing that ends the immobilization. The Eight of Wands says the second you can see, you'll fly. And I want to say one last thing about the Eight of Wands, because there's a warning tucked inside the good news. This card is fast, and fast can be wonderful, or fast can be reckless, depending on what's driving it. So when the fog lifts and all that stored energy converts into motion, be a little careful about what you aim it at. Some people, in the rush of finally seeing clearly, immediately fire all 8 wands into a confrontation, a scorching message, a public reckoning, a demand for the explanation they're owed. And I understand the impulse completely. But remember the 9 of Wands? You'd be firing at a bandaged man behind a staff, and you would not get the reckoning you want. You'd get defense. You'd spend all that beautiful new velocity on a wall. So aim it somewhere better. Aim it at your own life, the things that stalled while you stood in the fog, the decisions you couldn't make, the plans you kept deferring because you couldn't see the shape of your own future. That's where the 8 of Wands belongs. Not at him, at everything of yours that's been waiting for you to be able to move again. Because here's the thing about clarity. It's not for winning arguments with people who won't concede. It's for going. Point it forward and go. Comment point it forward if you're ready to spend this clarity on your own life, instead of on a confrontation that would only meet a staff. Why you overrode your own intuition for so long? Before I bring this together, I have to address something. Because it's the part of this reading that will actually change your life going forward far more than anything about him. You knew. The moon told us that. You've had the fog feeling about this connection for a long time, which raises the real question of this entire reading, and it's not what was he hiding. It's why did you spend so long talking yourself out of what you already sensed? And I want to answer that gently, Because the answer isn't that you're weak or foolish. The answer is that you were caught between two unbearable options, and you chose the one that let you keep him. Here's what I mean. When your intuition says something is very wrong here, you have exactly two ways to resolve that alarm. Option 1. Believe your intuition, which means accepting that this connection isn't what you hoped, that you may have to leave, that you're going to lose something you love. Option 2. Believe him, which means the alarm must be wrong, which means the problem must be you. You're being paranoid. You're insecure. You're too much. You need to relax and stop reading into things. And do you see the trap? Option 2 is agonizing it, means indicting yourself, doubting your own mind, carrying constant low-grade shame, but it lets you stay. Option 1 is clean and clarifying, but it costs you the connection. So a person who loves someone will choose option 2 almost every time. They will take the whole burden of the wrongness onto themselves, will grind down their own instincts, will accept being crazy, because being crazy and together is more bearable than being right and alone. That's what you did, not because you're broken, because you're loyal. And loyalty under conditions of fog turns inward and eats the person feeling it. So here's the practical thing I want you to take from this and carry for the rest of your life. And it's worth more than anything else in this reading. When your gut says something is wrong, and the only way to feel okay is to decide you're the problem, the gut is right, and the arrangement is wrong. Full stop. Every single time. A healthy connection does not require you to systematically distrust your own perception in order to remain in it. If staying requires you to become your own unreliable narrator, staying is the thing that's broken, not you. Learn that now. Learn it from this. Because that lesson, once you actually have it in your body, will protect you for the rest of your life. And honestly, it's the only thing this whole painful chapter has to give you that's worth what it cost. Let me put this whole thing together for you. The reverse magician showed us what you've actually been in contact with, not the man, but a front. A constructed presentation so seamless that there was never a lie to catch. Only a frame that was false. The reversed Eight of Cups exposed the alarming truth underneath it. He is stuck inside a structure he has never told you about: an entanglement, an obligation, a situation he should have walked away from long ago and can't, and every confusing thing he's ever done was determined by that hidden room. The Four of Cups explained why he never told you. Not calculated deception, but resignation. He stopped believing anything could change, and telling you would have collapsed the two worlds he was keeping separate. The Seven of Swords showed us what the truth explains: every disappearance, every off-limits topic, every stall, every vagueness, all of its symptom rather than message, while insisting we stay honest that concealment isn't privacy, and that it costs you real time. The moon revealed how it's surfacing, not a bombshell, but a slow, cold illumination. Confirming a fog, feeling your intuition has been reading correctly for a very long time. The Nine of Wands showed his side, bandaged, exhausted, and braced a man who will meet exposure with defensiveness, not confession, because defending is the only move he has left. Justice handed you the reckoning. Weigh the facts, not the intentions. Hold the compassion and the cost. Understand him fully and still refuse to accept it. And the Eight of Wands promised your release, that the second the fog lifts, all your stalled energy becomes velocity, and you finally get to move. So here's what I want you to carry out of this, my loves. This was a hard one, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But I want you to notice what the actual gift is here, because it isn't him, and it isn't closure, and it isn't an apology. The gift is that you finally get to stop blaming yourself. Because that's what fog does to good people. When you can't see the real reason someone is behaving strangely, you fill the gap with the worst available explanation, and the worst available explanation is almost always you. Not enough, too much. Should have said less. Should have been better. Every confusing thing he did, you took inside your own body and turned into evidence about your worth. And this exposure ends that. The truth isn't that you weren't enough. The truth is that he was standing in a room you never knew existed. And no version of you, not a single one, not the most perfect woman alive, could have reached him in there. It was never about your worth. It was about a door he wouldn't walk through. Now, my honest note, always. Understanding this does not mean waiting for him to walk through it. The reversed Eight of Cups and the Four of Cups together are telling you something you need to hear clearly. A man who is stuck and resigned is not a man on the verge of a breakthrough. He may find his way out one day. People do. But that is his walk to take, on his own legs, on his own timeline, and it is not a project you can complete for him or a rescue you can perform by loving him harder. So take your decoder ring, take your clarity, take your self-blame, and set it down where it belongs. And then take the Eight of Wands and move toward your own life, at speed, with your eyes finally open. That's the reading, my loves. If this hit you, if you felt the vertigo, if 100 confusing moments just clicked into focus at once, please like this video on your way out. It genuinely helps this message reach the women who've been standing in someone else's fog, blaming themselves for the weather. And subscribe to Elena Tarot, because honest readings, even the heavy ones, are exactly what I'm here to do. Tell me in the comments which card gave you the vertigo. The front? The hidden room? The moon confirming what you already knew? I read every single one. And if you already know exactly what's being exposed, you don't have to say it. Just drop a single, so I know the fog is lifting. Thank you for being here today. And thank you for having spent all that time trying to reach someone who was never actually reachable, because that says everything about your heart and nothing about your judgment. You weren't fooled because you were naive. You were fooled because he was good at it, and because you're the kind of person who assumes the best. Don't let this make you cold. Just let it make you clear. The fog is lifting. Go fly.